How is everyone doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Hi. Oh, I love seeing all of your guys' faces. Um, at the at the risk of being super vulnerable, um, I kind of want to actually have this meeting be a little bit different. So Taj was going to train on some social media stuff and some DMs and some systems, and then she ended up having a call from her boss that she had to be on, so she's not going to be here. And I'm like, all right, and I actually just heard this morning. So I was like going to scramble, and I actually started to put together some stuff about personal branding and what it looks like to show up as a leader worth following, and how you really showing up in a much bigger way for your chapter really helps. I know that's something that helps me, like, no matter what happens in business, it's like, okay, great, like this personal brand, I can launch and do all these different fun things. And it obviously helps gather people and it helps attract bigger leaders and all of this fun stuff. And my heart, again, at the risk of being really vulnerable and seeming like the leader that doesn't have it all together and all of this stuff, I actually just kind of want to invite you guys into some of the hard stuff of leadership. And if that's all right. Um, it's it's been a hard couple weeks. We actually had to send notice to our Orange County director. She just has been canceling meetings. I know she's going through some really, really hard stuff on her end. And so, like, there's so much love and so much grace for her and her journey. Um, and it doesn't come without like being misunderstood. Um, and it doesn't come without really hard things just being said about me or us, or, well, you're not even a community builder and your community of directors and and it's like, oh gosh, okay. It's just been a really hard couple of weeks when there's contracts involved, and when someone doesn't, when they just cancel meetings and we have to refund memberships, and people are starting, like, it starts to affect our reputation in an area. And so I kind of just want to invite you guys into that space um, of things can just be really hard sometimes, especially when we're dealing with people, and especially when um, it's almost like how do I explain it? Jesus help me. I don't even know. I don't even have words, but it's just been a really hard couple weeks. And um, with that, like, don't freak out. Like, we're not closing the doors or shutting the doors, or I'm not shutting it all down or anything like that. Um, it has actually just had me asking some really hard questions of, oh, okay, like, because there is a cost to leadership, there is a cost to building things that involves people. And it's like, gosh, like, is this cost worth it? And Lachelle, I actually love that you're here, being one of the first women that kind of came into like my Unshakable Confidence Challenge and the book and Meant for More, and knowing what I mean when I talk about like there's a divine discontentment where when you like there's like the gap between where you are versus where you could be or should be gets like at first it's like okay, like it's discontent, oh yeah, I know we can get there and I know this is what's happening and this is where we're going, and eventually there gets this gap where it's like so big where it is like so it is like no longer okay to where it actually like radically shifts momentum and changes things. And so, and I'm being like super vague, but um, I'm kind of rambling. So I'm sorry if this isn't making sense because again, I'm like fully vulnerable, open. And so some of like this divine discontentment on my end, um, and I have been in the space before with my online challenge where I actually got so good at systems and outsourcing things and replacing myself out of certain things to like scale and grow. Um, but I actually end up doing a bunch of stuff that I hate. And I work myself out of the things that I love. And I'm in this really interesting space of like what actually like the part that I love about what we're doing is actually being in your guys' seats and being the community builder and being in the room and speaking and being with the girls. And I've like worked myself, like I've replaced myself in all of those things. And so to be honest, like I'm like so jealous and so envious of your position and not mine. Um, and I also recognize like another space that I am in and have been in before, um, is the realization of like outgrowing um certain things or certain people. And so um so I'll give you an example. So when I was a personal trainer, I and in the health and wellness industry, I worked for Blue Cross and Boise State and different companies and some major gyms and help them like hire and train and teach. And I was also then a personal trainer. And it was like I had a wide variety of clients, but found that I really thrived with high performers and thrived with like I actually ended up training a lot of C-suite executives, a lot of professional athletes. Like I would train collegiate athletes, professional athletes. I trained like professional golfers, semi-pro hockey players, like tons of C-suite executives from our area. And then I also had this other kind of branch where I was at Blue Cross and in their employee wellness programs that I would help develop. I was also then working with these people who had like 100 pounds to lose and 50 pounds to lose, and they were still eating like ice cream and donuts every day, and they were like still complaining that they had to take the stairs, and versus like taking radical responsibility for where they were at and like just doing it. And so I'm actually finding that I'm in a space of um the like the and this is where it's like, I don't want you to hear what I'm not saying because there's truth that lives in the tension of this. But like, our people that complain that our $500 a year membership, that it's expensive or that they can't afford it or anything like that. Like, I love them. I have grace for them, but it's kind of like where I got to this feeling of, oh, like for the love of God, like put the freaking donut down. You know, like $500 a year is like, go sell some stuff out of your garage and go make $1,000 probably and grow your business. Or like the people that are like, oh, like I don't know, I can't like post on social media because it's I'm just like, oh, for the love of God, like it's not hard. Like, so I'm finding that I'm in this space of where there is actually not as much grace for the beginners, for the complainers, for the like people that aren't, like I'm like, so like there isn't as much grace to like convince people that what we have is really, really amazing compared to on the other end of that, like really working with high performers. And I recently heard this question was, I think it was on a podcast or somebody was asked, it doesn't matter, but it was like, if you could start from scratch or like start over, like what would you actually build knowing what you know now? And it's like, oh, actually, I would probably do something with like, six-figure founders or like speakers, like women more like you guys who are like, yes, like I want to grow my influence, I want to be, be a voice, like I want to come out as a leader and an influencer, and even more so. And so it's this really interesting space where I'm just in that truth that lives in the tension of wanting to continue to grow but not leave people behind. um and actually really craving quality and high performers over quantity of lower, or like people that you have to like convince that a $500 ticket to a full day event, is like very easy to do, and is the return on investment, what you learn there is really easy, so, or is really great. And like, so I don't know. I don't even know the goal of this or the outcome of this, but I actually just kind of wanted to invite you guys into some of my process and some of like where I'm at, and some of just kind of the questions of like, okay, what are we doing that's working really, really well? How can I get back into the things that I love and that light me up around the people that, that I really thrive around? And don't get me wrong, it's like, are there hard days, or are there things that not like, I don't expect to love every moment and that every moment's going to be easy. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there actually is a tipping point um where we actually find, and I want to say it's either 60 or 70%, that if you are in 60 to 70% of what it is that you love, you're willing to do the hard things, you're willing to pay the cost for things. So it's more often than not that you're actually in your zone of genius, that you love what you're doing, that you love who you're with. But when it swings the other way, now it's all of a sudden maybe 50, 60, 70% of the things that are not your zone of genius, that you don't like, that it's like the people that you're just like, oh, for the love of God, put the donut down, like, then that's where like that gap and that divine discontentment starts to grow. And so I guess I kind of just want to like open up discussion, open up feedback, open up, I'm even like, maybe our conference on April 5th, maybe it becomes a high ticket mastermind with 20 people because, I don't know. I'm not going to like go drastic or anything like that, but I'm just asking some of the bigger questions of like, what do we really want? And what do we really want out of this vehicle of this thing that we're building together? And so, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it just is like, let's have a family chat. And that's, I'm like, I'm, I'm not in a space where, again, anything drastic is going to happen. Like I'm in the midst of like the feels, but I also know that my feelings don't dictate my actions. And so but it is causing me to ask some different questions and to really ask some of the harder questions. And okay, like what's the cost that I'm willing to pay? What's the cost that each of us are willing to pay? Um, and is it worth it? Like what, and I don't like, I want to move at a pace that still continues to bring other people along. And I recognize the growth that I have had to where like they're like, I envy your position as directors, but not with the new people in business who don't, they're like, I don't know what to post on social media. Right. So I'm like, oh, okay. So it's not those newer people, but it is in your position. So I'm just like, okay, what? I don't know. I feel like I'm just verbal vomiting now at this point, but I kind of just wanted to invite you guys into some of that again at the risk of being really vulnerable and not having it all together. And so your feedback and comments or whatever are totally welcome in this space.
So Charity, I'm just going to say that number one, thank you for being vulnerable and opening up your heart. I think that as somebody who's been in leadership for a long time, and many of the gals that are on this that I know personally, I can relate to this, that as a leader, sometimes you think that you have to show up with all of your shit figured out. And it's when we can show up and say, this is where I'm struggling and how can we help, that actually things start moving. And so it's gives us more reason to respect you when you come and say, hey, I'm real. And how can we get through this together? And so I just want to thank you for that because I've been there where it's like I going to go back to my network marketing life, and all of my best friends in my entire life were part of my team. And I felt like I didn't have anybody to go to and tell them I was having a hard day because I wasn't supposed to talk down to my team and bring them down. And really what I needed to know is that when we get to chance to work together, we can rise together. And so thank you for just being vulnerable and real with us because this is actually going to be how change happens. So thank you for that. Yeah. Big hug.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'd love to say, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lachelle.
Well, you know what? Heather, you go. And then I'll save what I'm gonna say for later, actually. It's better timing.
Okay, it's just quick that I feel the same way, and I thank you so much because I'm coming from a space of uh being new still, but really excited about it. But also there was this underlying belief that I had for a long time that people who were successful, that I looked at as successful, and I've told this to Lachelle before, that I thought they came with a silver spoon in their mouth somehow. They had it handed to them somehow. They did, I'm never going to be able to do that. And I have been on my path of discovering and realizing that that's not the case. And it makes you and other people feel very relatable. I've loved when you've left messages and you can hear your kids in the background and that you're opening up to us about this and just being real because it makes me feel more connected, more relatable, and that I'm not crazy when I'm like, oh my God, why did I do this? Even though I don't have all the responsibilities that you have at this point, I'm looking to get somewhere there. And I will get there. But I guess I just feel like it's very relatable and it makes me feel not happy for you that you're feeling this, but understanding, very understanding of it. And, I definitely look up to you, and I look at you as a lot of times it's like all together and you're doing all these things. And then I'm like, but there's a real person there. And it just makes me feel more connected and more like, all right, I can do this even though, or even with the low moments and the hard times.
Yeah. Thanks.
If I could sort of piggyback off of, oh, sorry, of course, right there when I go. If I could piggyback off of Heather, you mentioned Charity, and again, same sentiment. Thank you so much. I'm actually preparing for next month's meeting on leadership. So this is just such a special moment to really kind of bring that into all the things I'm kind of working on. But you mentioned how you're in this space where what you loved is what we're doing, and you're having to deal with all the like back end stuff that you don't love. But I just want to remind you that what you're doing is right here in this moment with us. Like there is still this very, I sometimes like think like, my gosh, how does she, like, she's just always sending me messages of encouragement, and like Heather said, like popping in your family time. And you might not be able to have the sip and socials like you used to, but this is like the best sip and social right here. Like you pour into us and you're building us up. And to me, it's the same thing that we're doing in the sip and socials, And so I just want to remind you that you still do that, maybe not in the sip and social like environment, but I've got my sip, I've got my coffee right here. But also too, someday, I think, you've got littles, and, moving around the country is expensive, but someday I hope you can pop into Anchorage to see what you've built there, and all the other places in the United States, because I think when you can see the other side too, which I'm sure you do, but I think it's really powerful. And you've been to like Noel's, and like just to see like the idea, what has come through all that hard work, just as reminders to you, like, okay, it doesn't mean that there's no like, that stress and the tension pieces and the gaps and all that, but just know that like we support you. And this right here, like I look forward to having you, just like Lachelle, like Noel, everybody like pour into me. So this is the best sip and social, just saying.
Thanks.
How could we
I'll
best?
pop in if no.
Oh, go ahead, Lori, go ahead.
Okay. I agree with everybody. Charity, you've really built something that I'm very proud to be a part of. And I watch all of you chapter directors, and I admire each one of you. And it's so nice when you're struggling and I can have a conversation with you, Charity, and say, here's where I'm struggling. You give me good ideas. Sometimes I think about it later and think, okay, what did Charity say on that one? And then I know that I can move forward and have a totally different view on things. And because of you, we are all running these wonderful chapters of women that we're encouraging, which, pours back into us too. And I'm so thankful to be here. And I continue to want to get better and better because of you, Charity, and the other chapter directors that are on right now that I've had the opportunity to get to know. It just is very encouraging for me. And it's a great point in my life where I am right now to know that I have all of you ladies once a month, or just a phone call away, or a Voxer message, which I know I'm really bad about getting on, but just a message away that I can ask questions while I'm struggling to try and get to the point where I would like to be at. I know that I have a handful of friends right here that are always there for me. So I appreciate you, Charity, and I'm sorry you're going through this, but I think this is the time that we pour into you and thank you for everything that you're doing for us. And I know my chapter, the ladies that attend my meetings, they all admire you and think you're wonderful, because I make sure that I give my kudos to you, because I wouldn't be here without you. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
Well, I think it's my turn. No, truly, Charity. I mean, I feel like, you know where I stand in this, and definitely, um, certainly talk you up, and Business and Bubbly, just what it stands for. It has been a life-changing space for me. And I know that in our chapter, there are women that have the same sentiments. And gosh, I hear so many of the words that you shared today. And I think that where my heart is right now is, how can we now come together, and how can we really, um, maybe it is, redefining what the mission is, or what your vision is for this. And then how do we come alongside of you? How do we all come together and maybe talk about what it is that, this is for our community, and how can we make it even better? Because I do believe, and I know we've all been in the space of like the people going, $43 is too much, 500 is too much. And, but we know the value that we bring. And I think where I really heard you was, when you know that you have something wonderful and you're trying to convince people of that, can be a very frustrating space at times. And you don't understand, like, why don't they just sign up? Like, they've been twice and they loved it both times. Like, now it's just, time to do it, time to jump, and I've gone through that, and you've walked me through so much of that. And this is where I just adore you. And, I'm so grateful for your mentorship in this space, and what you do for women. I mean, just like what we experienced a couple weeks ago in our speaking retreat, like, was one of the most incredible experiences. And I love that two of my favorite people are here, because Lachelle's retreat was my other, life-changing moment. Like, both of those retreats had a massive impact on my life. And I know that when I look at the faces of the women that are just even here today, I go, oh my gosh, every single one of these women are like powerhouses. And we are those women that want to rise. We have that, and we want to help others rise. Like, that is our heart. That's where we are. So I think today would just be such a beautiful time for us to really, I love the family chat, to really come together. And I always say, I always repeat Lachelle's mantra of truth with the hug, and being able to really have an open and honest conversation of, what are we thinking as we move forward? And change is okay. When I got into this space, I knew that we were building from the ground up. That's always been kind of where I have been. So when we hit bumps in the road, I go, we're just building. Like, we're just at the beginning of this, because this is going to be, and has the potential to be, so big. I really believe that with all of my heart. But it is going to be us having these family meetings to come together and have those honest conversations. So that's just where I stand today. I love you. You know that. And I love each of you that are here. And I am glad that we get to be vulnerable. I'm grateful for that space, for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so Charity, what can we do today to be of most support to you? Because I also recognize that sometimes it's like, yes, I'm very much a solution oriented, like, let's figure this out, to a fault sometimes. And sometimes we just have to give ourselves space to be like, okay, I just needed to have these ladies uplift me today. So I want to know, how can we help? Do you want us to get into solution mode? Do we need to just continue to support you as a human? And, for the next couple minutes here, because I want us to be able to keep moving forward with momentum, and I think that we want to honor you and where you're at. 'Cause this has been you've said a couple times, it's been a hard couple weeks, and so I want to make sure that like we're taking the next direction to what is going to benefit you the most.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, that means a lot. Honestly, I think what would really help is your guys' perspective, because you know when you're like in it and it's really hard to see the forest from the trees. That's that's where I'm at, and I value your opinions, I value your feedback, I value um each of you. You know, like I'm in this space of like even Meredith, how you're like, yes, come to Anchorage and see what you've built. And I'm like, oh, like girlfriend, like we are building this together. Like this isn't just me, you know? And so, yeah, I don't know. Like if you could start over from scratch, like what would this look like for you? I mean, honestly, for me, it would be, I mean, it sounds so funny because, you know, we hear probably more often than not of the, oh gosh, like the $500 or the $43 or the whatever. Like I'm not necessarily like there is this truth that lives in the tension of you have something and what is the market willing to pay for it. So I think like industry wide, like we're right in there. Like honestly, the group, like the dinner series, the 3 networking events, half day events that I was in last year, so spoke at and then like was a part of, people paid 15 to 20 grand to be a part of 3 events. You know, so like to me, I'm like, there's like such a big gap to where, and people pay, you know, over $1,000 to whatever me and BNI, and like there's all these smaller groups or what. And I'm like, I'm not in a race to be at the bottom is my thing.
So,
Like I was like, I like want to hike the price. I want to like attract way better quality people, but
so
I'm
if
not
I
going to
like
make drastic changes. But
yeah, so it's us, right? It's the directors that are going to be the catalyst to bringing that energy and the validation of the cost to where it's at, right? If I believe in the bill of goods that I'm selling, the energy in which I express that and the people that I talk to and the conversations that I have are going to reflect that. And so it's less of, in my opinion, the end people, because I believe that I am going to draw in the right people if I am the right person in my seat. Does that make sense? And so that's just my perspective on this, you guys, because I've been in several different networking that are this is a right along the same price. There would be one thing I would say is that having a little bit more of a gap between the membership savings and the guest ticket might incentivize people to be like, oh my gosh, look at how much I'm saving. Because
like
people,
more like a higher guest ticket price or
yeah, something like that. Yeah. And so just exploring that. But
I
my,
actually just bumped it up to 50
Yeah,
cents.
I was gonna say it just did get bumped up. So that to me right there, as Lachelle, I agree with you. It's like a no-brainer, really. Like, are you gonna pay $57 for one ticket, or are you gonna become a member for 43? And we have so much more to offer.
100%. And so I feel like, in my opinion, it's really a matter of less than us trying to figure out what the market is willing to spend, but really pouring into the linchpin people in this space that are ready to like be excited about this and are willing to do what we need to do. So then my question to you is, what does that person ideally look like to you? And then once you can identify and help us understand like who that person is, then it's like, okay, then what does the company need to do to attract and support that person? That's just my perspective on this. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are, but does that make sense? So who do you want in these seats? Like ideally, if you could start from scratch.
In the director seats. Well, here, I'm gonna send you a little scorecard, and I think it takes like less than 2 minutes. If you want to just take a couple minutes and do that. So it's called a key person of influence. And here's what I'll say. It's actually is that I think that we have the right women in the seats. Like I think that you guys are the right women in the seats. I think it just looks like growing your influence.
Do you want us to do this right now?
Yeah, actually, if you could take a couple minutes and do it, I think it'll take like less than 2 minutes. I think it's like 13 questions. And if you're watching the replay, I'll put the link, but you can also go to scorecard.dent.global. It's called a key person, or you can just Google, it's called a key person of influence scorecard or keypersonofinfluence.com, I think. There you go. I'm just looking at the website, keypersonofinfluence.com. Sorry, I looked at it and I guess it was like 40 questions, not 15. But
Yeah, I just finished.
and I'll as the last few of you guys finish up, I'll also say that I don't know if it's necessarily like changing the directors that are in the seats compared to, I'm in a space of, okay, do I bring on a fractional HR person that does, more of the onboarding or the offboarding type things? Or, we're in this space of needing to increase hours with customer service stuff, but it's not all the time. And, also then like being like mindful of monthly budget and outgo and um that like any business like any business, it's navigating all of that. So um but obviously having more directors and more community builders and bigger communities helps with all of that. But so yeah.
So, reason I asked that question is what kind of person, what kind of leader would you like to have in this? Is because I wanted to have an idea. You had mentioned a couple of things earlier on about people who are already influencers, right? Like already doing stuff. And so one of the things that like I sparked while you were talking is that if that's the kind of person that you're looking for, that person is likely to be really busy, already growing whatever it is they're growing, and this is going to be a side thing,
Mhm.
right? So they're already busy. So really making sure that we have all of the things to support a currently very busy person, so that we can make sure that there's at least number of barriers to get this person, rocking and rolling in their busy lifetime, right?
Yeah.
Also thinking about it in terms of making sure that if your ideal person is an influencer, then that person is likely very gonna be very concerned, right, with their own reputation because they've built it. So it's like, okay, so all of the other things that are supporting that. So that's why I'm asking you, like, who are you looking for? Because if that's the case, just like you said, it's the support behind the scenes to make sure that those people have as least amount of barriers as possible to get out and be your spokesperson and your like feet on the ground, right? The other thing that I thought of when you were talking is a friend of mine, Tiffany Hafe. She's one of the experts inside of my program. I believe I actually introduced you guys at one point. So that's what she does. She actually goes in and she creates systems and procedures and manages teams so that the people, the creators, the big visionaries can stay in their zone of genius, knowing that the rest of these things, because I don't know about you guys, I don't know, Charity, I am a big picture thinker. And so this has been an interesting perspective for me because, like, this is what the end user experience is with somebody like me that's a big picture thinker. You know what I'm saying? And so, having somebody like Tiffany that has worked with me to come in and take my big vision and put it into like this space where I get to stay and do my fun things that I'm really good at, and knowing that the rest of those things are getting supported in the background is kind of, in my perspective, like a win-win for you staying in your zone of genius and for supporting the people that you ideally want to bring on as directors. That's just, I don't know, my 2 cents in there.
Yeah, no, for sure. I love that idea, and that's something I've considered is kind of bringing on that integrator. If you've read the book Rocket Fuel, there is like the visionary person, and then there's the integrator that takes the ideas, breaks them down into the piece by piece stuff. Um, because I'll be honest, like I have to actually really, really work at putting systems in place. And so I've considered bringing on like an OBM, so that online business manager that can help put in those pieces and parts. And again, it's that truth that lives in the tension of time and money. And I've worked myself out of certain positions and certain things and navigating what that looks like. Like, honestly, like I thought we would actually have 20 plus directors by now, and we're half that, so which also impacts hiring. It also impacts,
I like just give you like the biggest hug with a little bit of truth to this.
yeah, for sure.
So much. So I'm like, here's the deal. I don't think that your current systems are set up to support 20 people. And so I feel like God, everything is perfectly perfect. And I feel like he's given you this exact beautiful moment to say, hold tight. What am I missing? This conversation wasn't supposed to happen today. And he gave this to you. He gave you this groom of people who love you and adore you and want to see this all succeed, right? It wasn't supposed to happen. And so he's given you this opportunity. He's given you the whatever happened in Orange County, he's given you all of this to say, hold tight. What can I do? What do I need to know? Where are my blind spots so that I can grow this beyond 20? Where do I have to execute faith that if this is where he's leading me, I need to take this courageous step in faith, knowing that I trust that he's bringing me what is that I'm supposed to do. And I know that that's hard as business owners because we have numbers and things to have to figure out. But this is divinely orchestrated for you today. But I think that there are some things that we could definitely, if you're open to it, help you to streamline some of this process. Because if you're wanting to bring on more people like us we're busy and we want to see this happen, and reduce as many barriers as possible. We want to see you have 20, 30, 40 directors also.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm absolutely open. Like, because I want, like I said, there are times, like we can't see the forest from the trees. And I know we did like a revamp last year on the systems. And so I'm like, well, shit, here we go again. Like, which is like, to me, it's like the most annoying thing, but that's because it's not my gift, my zone of genius. So yes, like feedback for it. And I think like solutions, like I love the acronym, what is it, PSA, like problem solution action. So if there's a problem, like yes, like bring it, like absolutely, like I want this experience to be good for me, for you, for our members, for all of it, right? And I do understand that there are times in business where we build things and they're gonna break, and that's where you like get to like zhuzh them up and rebuild them again. And so I think that we are at that point where it's like, okay, like there are like, where are the bottlenecks? What isn't working? So yes, like,
And I
share
wanted
it
to
all.
pop in. I would love to pop in and wear my teacher hat.
Yeah.
Because as I'm looking at this, first of all, oh my gosh, I love that you said this was like divinely like orchestrated, because I really do feel that. And I actually, to be honest with you, Charity, right now I have goosebumps because I feel like this is going to be like a major breakthrough for all of us here in Business and Bubbly. And I want to support all of you and you, Charity, in such a big way. So when I think about what Lachelle was talking about, because I'm like reflecting on this, going, okay, so what does that look like? What can that be like? Because I think you're right. I think that there are amazing women that are sitting in these seats right now. And the I would envision that, and I have seen it, I mean, I'm kind of coming from an interesting perspective because I came in before everybody who's actually on the screen right now as far as a director goes. So I've seen kind of some of the ebbs and flows of the people that have come in and out and have all been amazing women. But for one reason or another, things didn't, continue with some. And we know, like you've even said, Charity, like that this may not be a lifelong thing for everybody. It may just be a season or whatever. But coming from a teacher perspective, I'm going back to learning styles, and I'm going back to when I say women that are like the go-getters, we're the ones that have big visions and we're like moving and grooving. And I love that you support us in our own businesses. I mean, that's part of your thing is like, hey, listen, it's not just about being a business and bubbly director. This is about you building your business and having influence and being a leader in your community. So with those kind of women, if we are attracting those women, I'm even thinking about just like the system, because here's the thing. I feel like you work so freaking hard in the back end. You are putting out videos. You are, I mean, there is, and what I do, I want to say thank you and appreciate is that you have made moves and you have listened to some of the things that we have talked about, and you have gone in, and I have seen some of these things start to change and evolve. And I know it's a lot of work. I mean, I feel like I know that it is a lot of work. But what I'm almost thinking is when I think of learning styles for people, I think about like even the videos. And I know we've kind of talked about this, but it's also like, how can we take action, whether it be, back-end systems or us coming together as a team? One of the things that would be so amazing is if we are talking to other women about being a director, and we're out there with that influence, being excited to be able to say, hey, listen, in addition to all of the things that you do, this is like a plug and play. Like you are going to have everything in that back space to support you. And then you get to go out and you get to implement it and you get to see it grow and do that. And one of the things I know for me personally, I love watching your videos. I mean, I do, but I also know that for me and my learning style, I am also, there's some videos I need to watch because I'm like, I need to take that in more and I need to like watch it again and really understand it. But there's some things that I feel like could be as easy as a checkoff list and be like, boom, 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 here you go. This is what you have to do. So there are different learning styles. There's people that need to like digest it through a video. There's some people that can just go, all I need is a list. What do I do? Tell me what to do and I'm going to go, because our experiences are all going to be different. And so that's where I want to take off some of this for you as far as feeling like you have to do, all the, because I mean, that is, again, that's your time. That's your time. And you're growing something huge. You're growing this amazing space of getting us to be, not just us, but lots of women to be speakers and authors, and you're going going back to the corporate space. And I mean, you have big dreams and big plans, but I think that if there's a way that we can brainstorm, and I don't even know what that looks like exactly, but to have this be like, I'm going to make an investment. I want to do this. I want to be a leader in my community. And I can go back to this portal that essentially has all of these things. And I know that's where my investment goes because that's what I'm paying for is all these backend systems that I don't have to deal with. I don't have to deal with their tickets. I don't, that kind of thing. And then we can focus on just growing, because let's face it, no matter what, there's always going to be the ROI, and people are always going to look for what's the return of my investment. We know we're not going to be millionaires necessarily on, being a business and bubbly director, but I think even just being able to make back your investment and being able to look at the things that we can do. Like, I love that we're starting to focus on sponsorships. And anyways, I could go on, but I do think having like that back end that supports busy women and that women that want to do work. Like we have to look at this as, I mean, I look at Heather as being our newest member and I go, yes, she's new, but she's hungry. She wants to do this. She's excited about this. And those are the women that we want to be able to do that. And so giving that opportunity. So that's just something that I was thinking about, being able to say it kind of is a plug and play, but yet you are still doing the work, but you get to stay in your zone of genius of being able to build a community because you are fully supported on this back end. So you getting help with the systems, because I know it's not your jam. It's not my jam either. It is not. And I don't want you to waste your time on that. I want you to be in front of us. I want you doing what you did 2 weeks ago at that retreat and freaking just landing in your zone of genius and all of us rising from that. That's what I want you spending your time on.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I could just piggyback on Noelle, Noelle, you made me think of something. Noelle, remember this when I got in touch with you, and it was before I became a director, and I was like curious about being a director. And we had conversations again, you brought up the teacher thing, which is my jam. And Noelle, I go, this sounds like a lesson plan, but like a fun lesson plan on steroids. And she's like, yes, it is. It's a fun lesson plan. And so for me, every month I'm like, okay, I'm creating my lesson plan for my next meeting, but not everybody has that within them. So I feel like, I love, Noelle, that idea of in that back office, it's just maybe, and Lachelle, I'm going to take Lachelle's words, you just need to be 1 or 2 steps ahead where it's like, here's January's lesson plan for a new director. Here's February's lesson plan for a new director. And I think like having that kind of system, once you have the right people in, will really like make it easy to streamline for these go-getters. And then they can take it and kind of make it their own, because that's what teachers do. Then no one wants somebody else's lesson plan. You have to put your own spin on it, but it's there. And I say that because even though that kind of process is in my blood, it was my career, I still every month am kind of like, okay, wait, what am I doing for Business of Bubbly? And so I think having that would just be such a beautiful way to streamline the process and keep some sort of possible, I mean, I don't know that you care or if it needs to be like unified in some way, but it just even would be able to enrich our conversations as directors to meet and say, how did that go? Like, what was awesome about your meet, and then we can continue to have those conversations about what worked well, what can we add, and what did people respond to, and yada yada yada. So I don't know. Thanks, Noelle. That just kind of came up as a result of what you brought up. So I love that idea.
I'd also love to say I definitely have a tendency to love to have a list, and I call it my ta-da list. And so it's here's what I need to do, here's what I want to accomplish. I did it, ta-da, check it off. So even if it's like something in the back office where it's like, all right, you're a new director, you start here. And I know you have that, but there's also things like, I'm like, oh, should I look at all the social assets? Should I look at this? And then I get myself like, and if it could be like, here's your checklist and here's the link or what you should go look at next. If you're looking for this, click on here. If you're looking for this, and then one of the things I thought that might be nice is like a list of things that you might want to get as a director. Now, I know you have them individually in each section, but if you have that whole list right up front, because I'm one of those people who's like, all right, I'm all in, I'm doing this. So I'm going to go and order this now, and I'm going to order this now. And so like when I came back from the retreat, I ordered myself a speaker, and a microphone. But like things like that in a list so that it's still attached to the item that you're talking about, but it's also like upfront. Here are things that you could consider getting, that might be helpful to you. Not even links to them, but just ideas of what you want. One of the things I had thought of was to take things out of your hands so that you can concentrate on the big and exciting and beautiful, because what you have created that we all get to be a part of and help create is amazing. And so again, like Noelle said, I'm new. I'm super hungry. I'm super excited. I am like trying to post everywhere. I'm getting into every Facebook group and every this and that to try to, and I'm starting to have more conversations. And I'm hearing people say, oh my God, this is what I've been looking for. And I'm like, and every time I have the conversation, I hang up and I'm all like, want to jump around and be like, hey, everybody. So I think that, having like, I was like, oh, maybe to get it off your hands, you can have like somebody who handles all the incoming directors, but maybe you can have somebody come in and help you with the systems so that he helps you create the director, checklist and those things so that you can still have your interactions with us like you do, which I love, love, love. But you don't have to get into the nitty gritty, as Lachelle always calls it, the weeds of everything. So that's just my thought. I love this. Like I have that new fresh perspective. And for me, I'm jumping into this could be huge, not just for me, but for everybody involved in it. And when I'm telling people about it, I'm telling them with that excitement. And I'm always up for hearing any suggestions that anybody has too of other ways I can get the word out. Because I'm using Facebook, and stuff like that. But sometimes I feel like I want to shout it from the rooftops. Where can I go to do that?
I love that. And Heather, I have some ideas that just popped in my head for that. So Charity, like one of these guys that know me well know that like my zone of genius is like busting through the butts. And so like if there's a reason that somebody's not doing something or, they think they should, but they don't, like I want to figure that out, right? And so one of the things that has come up in my mind since listening to this is the good, better, best approach, right? So if I'm a brand new director and I'm super busy and I see the potential in this, I want to know what is the minimum viable product? What is the least amount of steps that it's going to take for me to launch this sucker? And can I do it in a matter of 30 minutes, just looking through things and whatever? I don't need 9 hours of video. I'm a video person, so I completely like that's how I love to teach. But looking at it from a good, better, best, what is the minimum amount of information that I can give somebody to get them into action and started? And then giving the person the opportunity to say, if you want to dive in more around this, click here. And then there's all of the videos and the links and all of the expansion is a way for them to choose that without getting caught in the weeds and distracted and overwhelmed, because really we just want to get people into action, right? So that's what I would recommend is some sort of onboarding that is literally just the checklist that is like the minimum information that they need to get started, and then diving off from there. And then the other thing that what they said sparked my thoughts is that you guys are right. I'm a teacher also, and so I want to make everything my own. But if you think back to your very first year of teaching, you probably went by the curriculum of the book, right? So not everybody is at that place where they're wanting to make it on their own. They want to just know what to say. And so again, going back to how can I decrease the barriers to getting people started? Maybe we have like a library of, let's say, 12 trainings. Could then people know like, oh, good, I have a year's worth of stuff in there if I need it, right? 12 trainings so that if you're the one who comes in and you are the one who's presenting, you're covered. And you can take it and you can adjust it as needed, but at least you know that it's there. And if I, want to use it, great. If not, great. But at least we're having opportunities for people who are brand new, limit to the amount of obstacles that's going to take them to get started. And I also think I'm happy to share, my presentations with you guys if we want to add to this library, if we want to create a list of topics that, will really benefit. My clients are primarily people growing on online businesses, but that's not the kind of people that are necessarily showing up at these. So I want to make sure that I'm serving them with topics that are going to be pertinent to them. And I'm going to need your guys' help coming up with those, right? So maybe a way for us to know what those trainings could look like so that we knock it out of the park, right? And then my third thing, and I'm going to shut up, is the social posting. So social posting is such a huge part of building this brand credibility and giving people like the idea of what Business and Bubbly is about. Most of my clients have a hard time posting for their own business. And so like I am seeing that if their primary bread and butter is they're having a hard time getting online, like it's not surprising that a side thing is also like hard to get online. So one of the ideas that I have, and I would be more than willing to find this person and we can share her, or if it's somebody from you, but I would love to see us having somebody that is going to be willing to post for all of us. So what I'm thinking is that if you're posting on Business and Bubbly, you tag all of us so it's on our stuff, and then we get to go in and we get to add things to it. So one of the things that I've taught in my social media course is that if you can have a foundation of stuff that's already there, it takes away the pressure and it takes away the, oh, I have to do it, which is going to keep you in resistance mode. But if I already know that I have really great stuff and then I'm like, oh, I'm inspired here. Oh, I want to promote this here. It's going to allow for the taste of my local chapter to get weaved in there, knowing that there's already a base that's built, that because if somebody's already doing it, why not let us all benefit from it? So those are a couple of the ideas that I have for systems that maybe would help this, because I'm thinking in terms of the busy person that is already successful and they're wanting to use this to like massively help the world. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that and such great feedback and ideas. So the questions, just as like some follow-up questions, are so I'll go back to the like here's a thing of what like some presentations that you can do or that type of a thing. Um, and this is where like I for sure want your guys' feedback to where it's like, oh, okay, like a lesson plan would be really, really great. And it's like, and maybe maybe it's an option and then you can choose to use it or not. But it's like, if that would be helpful. Um, and then we do have a couple presentations that are in there already. And then a bunch of stuff that's in the members portal, but maybe like if it, to where like you could download the whole branding, whatever guide or a social media, whatever XYZ messaging handout and use that. But I don't know if those are being used or not. And I know I've mentioned it multiple times. So sometimes like I feel like there are things that are there, or like I do a lot of the collaborative posts all the time. And like we've considered having someone, like help with the social media um aspect of things. And that I don't know, like, and maybe it just is because it's not hard to me. And so that's where it's like one of those things where it's like where it's super easy for you, it should just be easy for everyone. Um, I don't know. And this is where like I value your feedback. So I'm not trying to say like that I don't hear you, because I do. And I feel like there are really great resources. It's a matter of using them.
That's a part of it, is that there's so much
Okay.
that it's like I don't even know where to go. And like just like so social media, I will be honest with you, I don't love social media. I can do it. It's like my least favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
But like so I have, access to the Google Drive of all of these great ideas. It's overwhelming.
Okay.
And then we have all of these great links to Canva that I don't know if they're working yet or not, but there's so much. I don't want to have to make another decision. I have decision fatigue every day in my own business. And it's like, I don't want to have to go through and pick out something. So it's easier for me just to make something of myself. But then I'm like, oh, that's just one more thing I have to do.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's so good. You've done such a great job. I'm just speaking for myself that if somebody else would just take it for me, I would be definitely more consistent. That's my honest answer. And so that means that I have to hire somebody, I'd be willing to share that person with you guys. If I'm the only one who's struggling with this, then that's my own deal. But yeah, that's the thing. And yes, there are some trainings in there for sure. I think it's a matter of, again, like as a new person going through the onboarding, my mind says start here and go down the thing, right? But it's not, how can I put this? It's takes a lot of time to go through. If I went through every single thing in that to-do list and that every video that you have in there, it's too much.
Yeah.
And so I don't actually get to where I need to go because there's too much going on, if that makes any sense. And it's so valuable. It's just, that I need to be able to know exactly where to go and then choose to go somewhere else. Does that make sense? I'm so sorry if I'm
Yeah,
like,
no, it totally does. And I appreciate the feedback because I think that this is part of like it's so I'll like for example, which I love is, and I love this conversation and like the feedback and the back and forth. Because there is this like there's this truth that lives in the tension of providing enough resources and then also getting the repetitive questions. So like for example, how Lachelle, you were like, well, what happens on the back end of things and all the emails? And I don't really know what happens. And so I made another video for that. Right. And so it just like when there are repetitive questions,
right,
that's where it's like, okay, perfect. I can either create a video or a system around it, but then it just like adds more
right.
to the whole
So,
thing. So I'm like, okay, but I honestly,
so,
like, this is where I'm like, okay, I don't know what
so
to
I
do.
guess like, I'm just gonna speak for
And then
myself.
it's like it's overwhelming, but now you guys want more in a menu and you
So
want
that
more
was
videos and more training. So honestly, like I hear both sides to where I'm like, I don't know what to freaking do with this because you want
yeah.
less and you also want more.
So I think that having this is to me the and in this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That there is like a simple like this is the 5 steps that you need. And then there is a tab that if you need more, go here. I would have loved to just see like, hey, the every a sheet, a Google Doc that says everybody gets an email on this day of the month, and this is the link to what it says. That's all I needed to know.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I don't, and so like I don't necessarily, not that I don't value, but I don't have time to watch another video. I just want to know what's going out and what it says so I know. Does that make sense?
Well,
And so,
and almost,
yeah.
I'm thinking of this, Lachelle, because I feel like I've run into this. And first of all, I agree, Charity, because I'm like listening to this too, and I'm going, yeah, we're saying less and more, but I think it really is just it boils down to simplified. It boils down to simplified on your end and on our end. And we want to be able to support all of the things. So one of the things that has come up with members, like talking about members, because again, wanting to be unified. And I think when we go back to those emails, I want to be able to answer that question because I feel like what I thought I knew then is like they're saying, no, that's not true. And then there's been times where we have found discrepancies where we're like, okay, there's always 2 sides to every story, 3 sides to every story. And so we know that sometimes they're not telling us all of their story or whatever. But I don't know, like maybe it is something like that to where we do know because half of my members say, oh, yeah, we get a reminder. And then other people are like, no, we've never gotten a reminder, never, And so then I'm like, oh, I don't. So then I don't want our systems to look bad and to where they're confused, to where then they're like questioning the integrity of things. So I want to make sure that I'm on the same page and I can absolutely be like, this is what we send out on this date, and this date, and this is where you need to pay attention. Because again, we can spoon feed everybody, and there's just always going to be some that just aren't. But for us to be able to know beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is what happens, this is what happens, this is what happens, this is our system. And knowing that to where then we come to, it lessens those complaints coming to you guys because we can be the face of Business and Bubbly knowing that those systems are in place. So I think just that, a component like that. And then even with the lesson plan type of thing, because I agree, there are lots of lessons in that member portal for sure that we can kind of take from. But again, simplified to where, maybe we could still use those and just have a little library and not have it be like a massive library. It doesn't have to be a library of 50 things because then it's another choice, but literally that it's like maybe 24 lesson plans in there. Basically, you have a choice of between 2 a year, or throughout the year. Or maybe it just is 12 right now. And we just start with that and then we just build. And again, you can use those or you don't have to use those. But for the, what Lachelle says good, better, best. It's like, okay, so if you need a little extra help, here's some lesson plans. But if you don't and you want to take it and run because you know your community and this is what they need, or you have a gift of something great or whatever, run with it. Go do that. But no one's going to feel that pressure. Like some months I feel like I am like blowing it up. And then other months I'm like, crap, I got to get this done. And I'm like in a position where it would be so great if I just had like something that I could grab and take. And I do use the members. I have done that because I've had those months where I've had to go in and not just create something myself. So I just think it's more about simplifying and then maybe not having so many choices because I did think about that, Lachelle, and I had never really thought about that before. Sometimes there's so many choices that I'm like, by the time I go through all of these, I've just spent 3 hours and I could have just done this myself, and not done it. And that's on me. So yeah. And I feel like just between all of us right now and some of the lessons we've used, we could put together that library probably within a week. Like all of that could just be in there and done. And you don't even have to worry about that. You would just have to put a link somewhere in our business and bubble back
I
office.
was literally, I was, sorry.
That's what you love to do, then that's what you should do.
Right.
Like,
Well, that's what I mean. I was going to say between Meredith and I think we already even have, like, we've been doing this in the back end anyways, just having fun with it because it is the teacher and us that are like, oh,
and I was going to say, Charity,
out on
rely on the strengths of your directors.
Yes.
Like that's my jam. Like that was my favorite thing in teaching was lesson creation. And I worked with
Same.
teachers and new teachers. I mean, as an instructional coach, like it was how to onboard new beginning teachers, how to simplify it down to like pieces where it's like, this is simple, but it's effective. So I'm like, girl, ask me, I will do it. Like that's my jam. So I'm just saying you have support and I love that idea.
Yeah, no, thanks. I love that. And then I'll just share a little bit on like from my end because we actually had this very similar conversation last year. Which was where like I think there's maybe three presentations that are in the portal currently that you guys can like kind of pull from and plug and play type of thing. The reason that I didn't create more was to actually see if the three that were in there would actually be used. And if they haven't been, then there isn't a reason for me to create more or to spend more time or money or hire it out or whatever it is. So I hear what you're saying. Or like, even for an example, for like Black Friday and the ticket sales stuff, it was like I had a whole, there was like, here's 15 different posts, or I think maybe 10 different posts, and here's 2 videos and 6 or 7 graphics to be able to share throughout the 1 week, whatever, Black Friday. And so it was like this plan, like here's what to post, here's the handful of things to post, and not very many people did. So I find like there's this interesting tension of, and it's like I can't force you guys, it's like, oh, okay, I can provide resource. Like you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Like, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not calling you horses. So I'm in this space of like, and then it was like, okay, well, we want more quotes, or we want more videos, or we want more whatever. So I'm like trying to provide all of this stuff, and then it becomes overwhelming. So like I hear you, and I want to kind of provide those resources. And sometimes I put little things out there to see if they even get used. And if they don't, then I don't want to spend a bunch more time and energy and effort into doing this. Like, we actually had the same conversation as far as like, yeah, we could totally make videos and add them into the portal and they could just pull them up as a presentation. And I sent out an email to remind you guys, or those, the directors. I know some of you guys are new, so this doesn't obviously apply to you, and some of them aren't even on here, but it's like, I made the ask and nobody answered, and nobody made a video to add to the library. So it's like, that's the hard truth that lives in the tension of like, yeah, let's do it. And there's 3 resources that are already in there.
Like I said, I think it's just a matter of things are organized, and it's a barrier. So I don't think it's, for me, it's as simple as not using something that's there. That's just my perspective. So I think that there's a little bit of gray in there. But
sure.
yeah,
For sure.
For me, I definitely feel like that checklist or that like intro thing would be really helpful, and have the links to the things, because I truly have enjoyed watching the videos. I've gotten things out of them. I sit and I take notes. I take it seriously, and I have not been through everything, but I've gone through a lot, and I've learned a lot. Of course, I am also new to getting up and speaking all the time in front of people, and I love event planning, but I'm new to this kind of event because my events I've always done have been fun, like not that this isn't fun, but just like parties, you know what I mean? I have a Halloween party every single year, and I've got my certain things I always do, and every year I bring something new in. I love doing stuff like that. But coming in as a new business person and a new director to running something like this, that checklist with, okay, now go here and watch these for more information, because I'm the and person where I like that list of, okay, this is what I need to do and get my head around it all and start doing, but also want to get the value of how I do this. You know, even like the speaking, all of it. It all helps me, and I really enjoy watching it when I have, when I sit down and watch it, but having the and of doing both.
Yeah, no, it's great feedback. So here's what I want to share. Have you seen this startup checklist?
I did, and I actually followed that, but it didn't have all of the stuff that I needed.
Okay. So
And
how can that be improved then? Because maybe that's part of it too. So like, I would love your guys' feedback. Like, and even if you get a moment of, okay, and I can, like, we can always like bring someone else in. There's not a ton of extra, honestly, to like pay someone thousands of dollars to go through this. Um, so I would love to hear like what is really great to start with for you guys, and then what's great as far as, like, can this be improved? Because
um,
I did like and I've heard this a couple times, but they're like, well, could it, like, the valuable step by steps. So Julia, she was like, the sip and social trainings was like the practical step by steps that I needed. And she was like, I didn't really care about the vision, the culture, the vision, like all that stuff was fluffy to me. And to me, I'm like, oh, but like that is actually what I need you to start with. Because if you don't know what our culture is about, like, so yeah, like
there are things, again, like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm talking too much, and I shouldn't. I shouldn't say anything.
no, your feedback is really important too, because you're just, you're newer too. And so I want this to be like, would it be helpful to rearrange some of
Yeah,
these
so
things?
I'm a very like I'm a nerdy student, and I will do what you tell me to do, right? And so I totally geek out in all of the leadership and culture and stuff too, but I felt like I got that message when I filled out the form to become like, it took me a long time to fill that form out. And all of those questions were really just reiterating your vision.
Okay.
And so I felt like I got that
Okay.
in that process. So yes, 100%, like we have to know all of those things, but what do I need to know just to get started?
Mhm.
Um,
I feel like was valuable for you just to get started.
just what is the MVP, minimum viable product? What is the minimum, like what is to to get started? And I feel like the leadership stuff is 100% important. Like you should know that. I feel like it's like before you show up for your first event, like you should have an idea of that stuff. But I guess I just needed to know like what do I need to do to be able to pull off this first event? The leadership stuff is going to come. The leadership is stuff that we learn and hear. The the culture is stuff that we live. Um, and so I totally agree with you. It's important.
So would it
And
help
is
if
there a
some of
way
these
to, and
were
then I think that
rearranged?
this is something I struggle with myself, but like, is there a way to give the same message, but in a succinct way where we can get the message across that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. Um, so is there anything in like the first steps that you feel like is not valuable or that could be in a different?
So in order for me personally, I'm going to speak for myself. In order for me to be able to answer your question to the level in which I would like to answer that, I would have to go in and actually look at it and take some time. Um, it's because I'm not able to take it from just watching the scrolling and being able to like really dive in. And I if that's the question, I owe you my best to give you the answer. That's my perspective.
But I will say that what you were just showing right now, like those first steps, I do feel like that is what I needed. I needed to know how to start my group. I needed to know like on Instagram, this is what I have to start. Like, excuse me, but I do feel like that particular list below, like after your initial check-in list, I went down that list and I was like, okay, boom, done, boom, done, boom, done, because it explained it, I did it, and I was done. The checkoff list, again, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, learn about our culture, da da da. So that could be like, again, that could end up being hours and hours upon videos, whereas maybe it's just again, like, here's the basic. Even your document that you have put together that is all of our like the things that we say about like how we rise and how bubbly is like the metaphor of all of those things are all part of our culture. That's all part of who we are because I say that in every single meeting. Like they know and I feel like they're out there regurgitating that to everybody else that they're inviting. So I love that because it could just be that's like the minimum that you need to know. But as you have time, like these are the things that you can dive into even more. And again, we're going to learn that kind of stuff here, even in these conversations and our trainings. So I think that, I think that some of your like boom, boom, booms are totally how I do things and look at them. But then some of the things that are a little bit more vague on that checkoff list, like we could make it just even more simplified and we could do that. But I think some of these things that you have are all, these are great things. I mean, of course, I'd have to look at every single thing again, but because it's been a while since I've looked at all of these. But I do remember going through and being able to do some of those. I didn't get a chance to watch every single video when I had first started. I know that for a fact. When I first started, I was like, I don't have time to watch this whole video. So I wasn't able to do that. But this kind of stuff, like I love this. Like for me, the framework, I was like, awesome. That's perfect. Like, and
In this part, I think this is
yes.
the part that you're
See,
talking
I
about.
love those. Like, yes, this is what I love. Like, this is so how I look at things, and it makes it very easy for me. But that's my style of learning. So I'm not saying that the videos aren't great because again, you can still plug those. And I do like to watch the videos when I have the time to do that. But I am the type too that I just want to get it done. I want to get it started. I'm excited and I want to keep that momentum. So I love and that's what I'm saying, Charity. you did hear us with that, like last year when we had that conversation, and you did change some of these things and you've implemented some of these things. And for me, it's very well noticed that there have been, things that we've changed just by having these conversations. So I definitely appreciate that.
And I hope that, Charity, what you've gotten out of the last hour and a half is that we love you. We love what you're building, and we want to be a part of making it the most amazing and giving you a chance to be in your zone of genius.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so I hope that all of this was a blessing in some way to you, because I don't say anything unless I care enough.
Yeah.
And so I just want you to know that, like, I hope that you know how much we appreciate you and this opportunity. And at least I'm speaking for myself, that I just want to be a part of making it, knock it out of the park. So
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I want, like, like you, it's like we all want this to be really amazing and even better. And so your feedback is valuable. So if you're open, take a few minutes and go through and how can we improve it, and how, like, what would make more sense. Lachelle, if you have that contact for that gal that can kind of help sort through some things, and like make it almost like a, yeah, like I'm open to your guys' feedback, because I do want the onboarding to be easy, and the way that I see things, or like what or like Noelle, we were like, yes, like I love this checklist and that kind of a thing. That's like, okay, so how can we make those either easier to find? Julia had a really great point. She was like, well, is there a way to, like, where, on Thinkific, where it's like you watch the video and it checks it off or whatever on, and I'm like, I don't even know if our system has that capability or not. So some of it's like technology wise, but um yeah, like I would love to hear from your end as far as onboarding, what you think is like the valuable information right from the get-go, what can maybe be streamlined, what you would like to see. Yeah, like your feedback is, all of your guys' feedback is really, really valued. And then if you have a resource or an asset or a lesson plan or anything like that that we want to add to it, like, heck yeah, I'm all about it. But I don't want to add stuff just to add stuff. That's why it was like I started with a few presentations in there. And if nobody used them, then I'm like, I'm not going to add more stuff, because people are already saying, crap, it's a lot of stuff to go through. So it's that truth that lives in the tension of both of those. So yeah.
I think those videos are great for especially new directors who are like, if they've never done anything like this before, oh, I can use this and it'll help me get things going while I'm working on finding other speakers and things like that. I think the nonprofit, like the charitable part, is going to pull in more people. I think it's brilliant. I love that you started doing that, Noelle. And I think that it's just going to get us heard and seen more. But I do think that having these like kind of checklists will help get directors started before the 90 days so that they can get that 30-day. Because I will honestly say, yes, I started at a time that it's Thanksgiving, Christmas, so that's why I waited till January. But I also saw all these videos and I was like, oh, I need to know everything first. So I think it'll give new people permission almost to say, you don't have to watch every single thing to get started.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, ladies, for the feedback. And yeah, thanks for your love and support and care. And I appreciate all of you guys so much.
And just know that I had to tell myself this morning, as we get closer to our biggest breakthroughs, we go through these hard things. And as I shed lots of tears yesterday and today for my own stuff going on in my own business, I had to remind myself of that and say, okay, this doesn't mean giving up. This just means that we are in front of a big breakthrough. And Charity, you had that vision. You know that this is coming and it's already bubbling and it's already starting. And this setback is just getting you ready for major breakthrough. I just know that. I can feel it in you. And yeah, for sure.
Thanks. Means a lot. All right, ladies. Love you all. Grateful for you. Looking forward to hearing how we can make this better together. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.